Welcome everyone. With the new elemental infusions mechanic being introduced into the game, this video is just to provide an aid for any of those of you who are planning to league start and level up using this mechanic, as well as to provide any potential suggestions and slight recommendations as to some of the combos that are available. For those that aren't aware, the elemental infusions mechanic basically means that certain spells will be generating these elemental infusion remnants, which are basically orbs, little orbs, which have a decent pickup radius based on the few videos that have been provided demoing the mechanic. And basically upon picking these up, some other spells will be able to consume these remnants to basically enhance the effects of those spells. So what factors do you need to consider? Well, what spells actually consume infusions? Based on the patch notes available thus far, these are the ones that I could see. The little icon next to the spell shows the actual infusions that enhance the ability. So for instance, Arc at the top can consume a lightning infusion, granting it more damage and allowing it to chain more. Things such as Fireball can consume a fire infusion, allowing it to deal more damage and to split into multiple projectiles, and so forth. One key ability to note is Firestorm being a big one, being able to consume all three to be able to do a lot more area of effect and add different elemental bolts to its cast. That's all well and good in terms of what abilities can consume, but how do we actually get these elemental infusion remnants to be able to be consumed by these abilities? Well, there are these generators. Again, this is based on the patch notes, so it could be subject to change. There are 2 question marks here as well on Frost Bomb and Solar Orb. The Frost Bomb has been demoed in the trailers as providing cold infusions. However, the patch notes oddly do not actually mention this explicitly. So little asterisk there, although I strongly assume that it will be generating cold infusions, because otherwise there is no other spell that can actually generate them besides these 2, which I'll touch upon in a moment. The other question mark also is whether Solar Orb generates one, being an orb similar to Orb of Storms. Orb of Storms generates the lightning infusion, so one may assume that maybe Solar Orb works in the same way, but again, the patch notes don't explicitly state anything about Solar Orb generating an infusion, so be mindful of that. Siphon Elements and Snap, 2 worth mentioning. They can generate all 3 infusion remnants. However, they are based on the corresponding elemental ailment associated with those elements. So Freeze for cold, Ignite for fire, and Shock for lightning. Siphon Elements is a new persistent buff, skill buff, which I believe off memory grants a 5% chance to generate a corresponding remnant on applying one of those ailments. Snap, on the other hand, is a skill which generates those remnants upon consuming those ailments off the target. One very important thing to note, as of recording, there have just been patch note updates yet again, and Snap has been nerfed quite significantly, adding a 4-second cooldown. Previously, a lot of build guides or plan suggestions out there on YouTube have relied or included some sort of cast on crit or cast on elemental ailment combo with Snap to generate extra infusions. Now with a 4-second cooldown, that's going to be probably not as viable, but it is still there as an option to generate remnants regardless. So they're the different consumers and generators for ailments currently known. What are some recommendations or suggestions of builds that are being floated as potentially viable during the campaign and leveling especially, and probably some even into endgame? The common ones out there at the moment are as follows. Arc with Orb of Storms is a very popular choice many people are leaning towards. Arc consumes lightning infusions while Orb of Storms generates them. You can also place Overabundance, the support gem on Orb of Storms, to generate or to create 2 Orb of Storms, creating more infusions. That's probably the most popular one, combo at the moment. Orb of Storms in itself actually does a bit of an extra DPS boost in and of itself, generating more lightning sparks. Another potential combo is Spark, which consumes cold infusions with Frost Bomb, generating them. From a few, I believe there was a video of Would You Go during one of the boss race events at some expo. Someone recorded him using this combination on a boss fight and the damage being quite a significant boost. So for the Spark lovers out there, this could be a good combo. Another popular combo floating around is Fireball. Fireball's been buffed quite significantly and also is available a lot earlier. If you consume a fire infusion with Fireball, the extra projectiles it generates can also shotgun bosses and bigger mobs, using Living Bomb potentially, and again the Solar Orb maybe if that generates fire infusions, so that combination. A lot of Frost sorcerers and with mage type builds. A previous one is 0.2 that was popular and could have had a lot of potential was Frostbolt with Snap, and potentially with Frost Darts, the new ability consuming the cold infusions to boot. However, now with the Snap nerf having a 4-second cooldown, probably just kills this build, so that's probably not an option anymore. So the alternative to that may be simply using the new Frost Darts ability, seeing if that's any good with Frost Bomb. So Frost Darts consuming cold infusions and Frost Bomb generating them. Again, this is all mostly for campaign leveling, early mapping. Some of these, like Arc and Orb of Storms, may be viable in combination with some other things into late game, likewise with Fireball, Living Bomb, Spark potentially as well. So they still probably have endgame viability as well, but I'm mostly highlighting these combos in terms of the campaign and leveling process. On top of these combinations, worth very quickly highlighting for those that haven't really played around with spell casting before, highlighting a few buff type or enhancement type abilities and skills. Those being Flame Wall, pretty much gives extra damage to any projectiles passing through it. Frost Bomb now grants exposure to all elements, so very worthwhile using that. Orb of Storms grants extra damage to projectiles fired out of it, or not to the projectiles themselves, but it generates its own arcs or sparks out of the orb itself. Mana Tempest, big multiplicative buff, although it drains mana quite substantially. It also causes projectiles to split, I believe, upon hitting a target, so it could be very good with the new arc. Also, you've got your Elemental Weakness Curse, and honorable mentions to any of the more experienced players who want to play around with weapon swaps, the Sigil of Power on Chiming Staffs and Soul Offerings on minions provide significant multiplicative buffs as well to spell damage. That pretty much covers it. I hope there was some useful information there for people. Please like and subscribe to the video. If so, it helps the channel, and all the best, and enjoy the new patch when it launches in less than 24 hours now.